All right, everyone. What's good? Welcome back to the Heart to Heart podcast. My name is Hafiz, and this is the third season and the 16th episode. Today we have a special guest, Terry. Welcome.
Hafiz, thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to this.
Please don't make this complicated. What about the time we wasted on our love?
All right, so as usual, we are going to start off with the gaming aspect of it. For those of you who don't know how it works, we're going to be asking each other three lighthearted questions, and in each of those questions, we're going to be incorporating three random words into our answers. Ready to get started?
I am ready.
All right, let's do it. All right. My first question for you is, if you were a beverage, which one would you be? And your words are go, training, and leaf.
If I were a beverage, I'd probably be a Gatorade because I'd be doing a lot of training, and so Gatorade would allow me to rehydrate. And my understanding is that Gatorade has gone to a new beverage with a tea leaf in it. And so I would be very interested in going to the store and trying to get that beverage and seeing how it tasted.
Awesome. Well done.
Thank you. All right, your turn, huh?
Yes.
All right, here we go. So what's the craziest bet that you ever made? And your words are belly, publish, and explain.
Okay. I know sometimes on my end, it gets a bit frustrating to explain to certain people that I don't bet, like bet as in put money on betting. But I do have these little, I don't know if challenges is the right term, but where I'll tell someone, hey, I'll tell them, I'll be like, hey, I bet that team is going to win this or this. And basically, the biggest one that I had, and it was actually published in our group chat, was where we were deciding, we had a discussion between which team would win the league. So in the Premier League, there were two teams that were competing. It was that stage was Manchester City and Liverpool. They were competing. And so there was like, I think it's like 7 or 8 games left in the season. And I told one of my friends, I was like, yo, I am pretty sure Man City will win the league. And he was like, no, Liverpool will win. And I was like, all right, here's the deal. Whoever loses has to buy a jersey from the other team, put it on, it's got to cover their belly, and they have to wear that around for an entire day. Luckily, I won that one, but that spanned over such a long period of time. To a point, I was like, "Wow, that was historic from my personal life." So, yeah, that's that.
Very good. Very good.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, my next question for you: which kitchen appliance do you use most often? And your words are glide, green, and favorite.
So my favorite kitchen appliance is a green, it's called a glide mop. So you use it to work on tile and things like that, or clean up tile on the kitchen counter and things like that. So I'd say that would be my favorite kitchen appliance or kitchen product.
Nice. You just combine it all. Well done.
All right. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So what's the dumbest way that you've ever been injured in your life? And your words are test, pavement, and document.
Okay. All right. This was this one experience was a test to see how much strength I had, mental strength, and I have the documents to prove it. So there was this one time I was in my room and I hung up I think it was like a bed sheet or something like that. It got wet, so like I just hung it up at the door. And so I was walking in, and at that stage it did dry. So I was pulling it out. I was like pulling it off the door itself, right? When I pulled it off, though, I pulled it off a little too hard, and I pulled a muscle on my back, and I wasn't able to play for a little while. It felt like honestly, that sounds like the same impact that I have if I just fell on pavement or concrete or something like that. But it was very it's a very dumb way of getting injured for something that is very basic. Not a fun moment of mine, but you gotta have them sometimes. It is what it is. Yeah. Okay. Alright, so my last question for you is, what is your favorite zoo animal? And your words are undress, fund, and appendix.
Well, my favorite zoo animal is an elephant. And the reason it's my favorite is because I kind of felt sorry one time. I lived in Columbus, Ohio, and I went to the zoo, and they were raising money. There was a fund that was going on to basically pay for the operation to take the appendix out of this elephant. And, this elephant had all kinds of dust and straw and everything on it. So it was almost like they were undressing the elephant in order to do the surgery once they had raised all this money. So I was able to sort of observe the surgery from on far when they took the appendix out. And, ever since then, I've fallen in love with elephants.
Damn. Beautiful. Amazing.
All right, here's yours. Last one.
Yes.
What is something that you hate that you wished you loved? And your words are dry, hear, and lend.
I'm gonna need a second to think about that. Okay, let's do this. All right. I hear this a lot. A lot of people are like, "Hey, running is so important," or doing cardio. Let me repeat that. Doing cardio at the gym. I hear a lot of people saying when they go to the gym, they're like, I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna just do cardio for whatever reason, and I absolutely hate that. I don't like. There's no reason anyone should go to a gym to do cardio, in my opinion. Will my opinion change later on? I don't know. For now, I stand by it. But so sometimes you'll see people doing that. See, another thing, like one thing about running and doing cardio at the gym though is like your mouth tends to get dry, right? Because you run a lot, you're exerting so much energy to burn a specific amount of calories. Not thinking it's obviously it has its own benefits, but I prefer what's it called? Lifting, like weightlifting, better. But yeah, running. I wish I liked cardio a little bit more. I think it would have been cool if someone who really, really loved cardio did lend part of that aspect of it, and so I kind of I enjoy a little bit of both instead of being very, very, very anti-cardio in the gym. I do want to clarify, going on runs outside, I'm not against that, because it's outside. Going on runs are cool, but like to go all the way to a gym to run on a treadmill is not it for me. That's where I stand with things. So that's the one thing that I hate that I wish I didn't.
Super.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Thank you so much. This game was really, really fun. Great questions, by the way. So we're going to jump into the next part of it. You have a story you want to share with us. Is that correct?
I have had an interesting life. I would say that's probably the case. Yes.
I'd love it. Can you, would you mind just starting literally anywhere?
Anywhere? Sure. So
Yeah.
I am the oldest of three boys. You cannot tell this from looking at me or from my voice, but I'm 6'8" tall, and I played college basketball here in the United States at a military college in South Carolina called the Citadel. When I graduated from college, I moved home to find my first job. I'm really going to date myself now, but this is long before the internet was available to help people find jobs. Fortunately, I found that first job in the corporate headquarters of Wendy's International, the hamburger chain, in their marketing department. But unfortunately, I ended up living with my mom and dad for the next 3 years as I helped my mother care for my father and my grandmother, who were both dying of different forms of cancer. In my professional career, as I said, I started off in marketing at Wendy's. Then I became a hospital administrator. And then I made a huge pivot in my life and became a police officer. And I spent about 4 years working undercover narcotics. I was a SWAT team hostage negotiator. After that, I started my own school security consulting business. I was a girls' high school basketball coach for a period of time. In 2019, I made the fateful decision to start a motivational speaking business, which was very difficult. So I had to morph that into more of a podcast situation. And then in 2020, I published my first book. But for the last 10 years, I've basically been dealing with a rare form of cancer that has seen me have my foot amputated in 2018 and my leg amputated in 2020. And I still have tumors in my lungs right now that I'm being treated for. And then I guess finally my wife and I have been married for 28 years. We have one child, a daughter, who's a graduate of the United States Air Force Academy and is an officer in the new branch of the military here in the U.S., the Space Force.
Wow. That's a lot. That's amazing. That's a lot.
That means I'm old.
Wow. No, all I hear is wisdom. That's all I hear. But I have a question about the book. Can you
Sure.
dive into it a little bit more? What is the book about?
So the book is called Sustainable Excellence, the 10 Principles to Leading Your Uncommon and Extraordinary Life. And the book was really born out of two conversations I had. One was with a former player that I had coached who'd moved to the Colorado area where my wife and I live. And we had had dinner with her and her fiance. And I remember saying to her one night, I'm really excited that you're living close to me and I can watch you find and live your purpose. And she got real quiet for a while. And she looked at me and she said, well, Coach, what do you think my purpose is? I said, I have no idea what your purpose is, but that's what your life should be about. Finding the reason you were put on the face of this earth, use your unique gifts and talents, and live that reason. So that was one conversation. And then I had a young man reach out to me on social media and ask me what I thought were the most important things that he should learn to not just be successful in his job or in business, but to be successful in life. And I didn't want to give him the, get up early, work hard, help others kind of stuff. Not that those aren't important. They are. They're very important. But I wanted to see if I could go deeper. So I spent some time and I took some notes. And eventually I had these, 10 thoughts, these 10 ideas, these 10 principles. And so I sent them to him. And then I kind of stepped back and I was like, I've got a life story that fits underneath this principle, or I know somebody whose life emulates this principle. So literally, I had my leg amputated in April of 2020, and I started chemotherapy for the tumors in my lungs in June of 2020. And during that roughly 3-month period where I was healing, I sat down at the computer every day and I built stories underneath each of the principles. And that's how sustainable excellence came to be.
It's amazing. So there are 10 different principles, you said, right?
There are.
Which of those, are they organized in most important to least important. So they're all equally important.
Yeah. I mean, number 1 is not any more important than number 7 or anything like that. Yeah.
If you had to pick one from all of that, which one would it be?
Yeah, that's a great question. And as an author, it's always fun for me when people read the book and they kind of reach out and they're like, there's always one principle that resonates with the reader, and even though I wrote them, there's one that resonates with me as well. And this is the principle, and each principle is a chapter. So the one that I like, and I'm guilty of it, and that's probably why I like it, is that most people think with their fears and their insecurities instead of using their minds. And I know I've done that. I know I've wanted to do something in life and it'd be like, ooh, that scares me. That's uncomfortable. What are people going to say if I fail? And one of the things that has taught me, and I try to do this every single day of my life, I try to do one thing that makes me nervous, that makes me uncomfortable, that scares me, that is potentially embarrassing. And it doesn't have to be so big. It doesn't have to, it could be, I'm going to get up an hour earlier tomorrow, or you know what, I'm going to try to work an extra half hour with my prosthetic leg, or whatever it is, but something that makes you uncomfortable. And then, because if you do that, we're all going to experience those big things in life. Somebody close to us dies, or, we end up losing our job and we're living out of our car, whatever it ends up being. But if you do those small things every day, when the big things in life hit, you're going to be so much more resilient and able to handle those than people who just kind of lay back and like, oh my gosh, this happened. What am I going to do now? You'll know what to do because you've been doing it all along.
So what if someone's afraid to get to that stage of, so like they'll know that, they need to push themselves outside their comfort zone in order to be able to adapt to different environments. But what if that first step of pushing outside the comfort zone is where they struggle? How does someone get past that initial step of it?
Yeah, I talk a lot about motivation, but motivation is only as good as the person who has it, as the person who's using it to motivate themselves. And, I guess the way I look at this is sort of twofold. Number one, we're all going to experience pain, uncomfortableness, difficulty in our lives. Pain is inevitable. And it doesn't have to be a cancer diagnosis or even any kind of an illness. You could, flunk a test at school, or break up with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, or not get the promotion at work that you think you deserve. Pain is inevitable. Suffering, on the other hand, suffering is optional. Suffering is what you do with that pain. Do you take that pain and use it to make you a stronger and more determined individual? Or do you wallow in it and feel sorry for yourself and want other people to feel sorry for you? I always say that we are unique, but I got news for you. We're not all that special. We all have unique gifts and talents, but we're really not that special. But everybody thinks today that, I'm special and you've got to cater for me. The thing about life is life doesn't owe you anything. And life is about the choices that you make. If there's something you want to do in life, and I always recommend this to young people, if there's something in your heart, something in your soul that you believe that you're supposed to do, but it scares you, go ahead and do it. Because at the end of your life, the things you're going to regret are not going to be the things that you did. They're going to be the things you didn't do. And by then it's going to be too late to go back and do them. So pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. If there's something in life that you want, figure out what that thing is, figure out what you need to do to get it, and then go after it with everything you've got in your heart. I guess that's the only way that's the way I try to approach life. I know it's not easy because people are afraid. People are like, what is that person going to say about me? Or are they going to make fun about me? Who cares? Who cares what people say about you? Who cares what people, like, Terry's an idiot or something like that. I would never do that. That's right. You would never do that. But I am going to do it because somebody's got to do it. And, people always say to me, Terry, I could never go through what you've gone through, with your cancer journey. I could never do that. And I sometimes I'm a smart aleck about it. And I'll be like, yeah, you're right. You could, because you've already decided in your mind that you cannot do this. Why would you start anything? Why would you do anything in life with the attitude that I'm going to fail? This isn't going to be successful. Why not give yourself the best chance? And I'll end with this. There was a basketball coach at the University of Indiana a few years ago. He's still around. He's not coaching anymore. His name was Bobby Knight. And Bobby Knight had a phrase or a quote that went like this: mental is to physical as 4 is to 1. So here's this elite coach playing, who's coaching in the Big Ten here in the United States, who's training elite athletes to use their bodies. But what he's basically saying is your brain, your mind, how you think about things is 4 times more important than your physical body.
That is true. That is true. I mean, all the decisions that you do come from your brain, literally, and your decisions pretty much define who you are. Your decisions define who you are, really. I have a question about habits. So let's talk a bit about, let's say, some habits that you've learned/used recently that you personally find untouchable, as in it's one that you just you demand yourself to have every single time. What are some of those habits?
I'll give you 4 real quick ones. I call them my 4 truths. I have them right here on my desk on a Post-it note. They're 1 sentence each, and they are, to me, I guess, the bedrock of my soul. And the way I look at it is they're a good place to start to build a life off of. And I guess if any of your listeners, like these, I would offer that you take them and try to incorporate them in your life. If only 1 or 2 resonate with you, then take those 1 or 2 and develop your own as you go along with your life. So here's what they are. Number 1 is you need to control your mind, or your mind is going to control you. Number 2 is you need to embrace the pain and the difficulty that we all experience in life and use that pain and difficulty to make you a stronger and more determined individual. Number 3 is more of a legacy truth. I think it's important, regardless of what stage in life you are, that you think about the end game. What are people going to say at your funeral? Or what do you want people to say about you at your funeral? So number 3 is this: what you leave behind is what you weave in the hearts of other people. And then number 4 is, I think, pretty self-explanatory. As long as you don't quit, you can never be defeated. And I use those truths. I use them every single day to determine, should I do what my doctor's saying and do, chemotherapy, or should I get involved in this project or things like that? They are, in addition to my faith, they are kind of the guiding light that I use to determine how I live my life.
I love that. And I think the third one specifically, that's the one thing that could pull someone out of just complete lack of motivation, right? Just that question that you ask yourself. You're like, am I doing enough? Am I, is this enough for me to become the person I want to be when I'm laying down at the last moment in life? I think that's definitely helped me at some moments, without a doubt. I love all 4 of them. I'm going to be straight up honest with you. They're all really, really effective. But I think the third one did resonate with me a little bit more than the other, because it's arguably the most powerful one of all the others. And as you stated, it is something that people could think of at pretty much any age. Obviously, once you develop the mental capacity to understand how things are, once you hit that stage, that could be used as motivation from then on. It's I like that. That's awesome. That's great. How has your life changed? So outside of the actual, I guess, physical impact that the cancer had on you, how else has your life changed in terms of the things around you?
Yeah, I think illness, whether it's cancer or something else, in a lot of ways tends to isolate you from the things and the people that you care about. And I think you really find out who your friends are, who the people that are going to be in your corner when you're, throwing up and shaking, doing all these ugly things that I do. And I guess I think one of the things that I find interesting is I had a nurse once ask me, she said, what was it like to have your your foot amputated? What was it like to have your leg amputated? And I told her, I said, it certainly has not been easy. I'm almost 2 years past having my leg amputated, and I still am learning how to walk with a prosthetic leg. And what I told her is that, cancer can take all my physical faculties, but cancer can't touch my mind, it can't touch my heart, and it can't touch my soul. And that's who I am. That's who you are. This is just a house or a vessel or whatever you want to call it to house who we are. And I think that was something that really, I heard that sort of speech given back in 1993 about cancer can't touch my heart, my mind, and my soul. But I didn't have cancer in 1993. And so I didn't really understand it when the person who gave that speech, was saying that. I'm like, I don't get that. Well, I get it now. And that's definitely one of the big ways that my life has changed as a result of this disease and the treatment that I've gone through for it.
And what are some ways that people have treated you differently after they found out? Because I'm pretty sure they are.
Yeah, it's definitely, when I first, started down the cancer road, I had all my limbs and everything, and I was 6'8" tall, and now I'm pretty much in a wheelchair. And I remember when I had my foot amputated, I was walking out of the hospital, and I'll never forget this. And I try to laugh at things because I know cancer and amputations and things like that make people uncomfortable, make people nervous. But I was walking out of the hospital, and I was probably 50 yards from the entrance or the exit, and there was a woman there, and she was staring really hard at me. And you could tell by the prosthetic or the cast or whatever, I forget what they called it, that I had on my foot, that I didn't have a foot anymore. And so I was making my way to the exit, and she was just really, really staring at me. And so I couldn't let that go. And as I was walking, I got right next to her, and I looked over at her, and I said, don't worry about it. It'll grow back. And then I just kept walking. And I turned around to look at her, and she had this look on her face like, will it? Is he serious? I mean, it was like, cancer is dark, it's ugly, but you can make it fun. You can make it, hey, yes, I'm different. Yes, I'm in a wheelchair now. Yes, I'm for me, I'm not basically looking at people's butts all day long because, everybody's walking around and I'm kind of down here and stuff like that. And so I just kind of laugh at it and joke about it and stuff like that. And it's just one of those things that it's really what handle you want to grab. Do you want to grab the handle of hope and faith, or do you want to grab the handle of misery and despair? It's up to you. It's up to you. Again, it goes back to choices. Which one do you want to grab? I don't know how much time I have left on the face of this earth. I want to have as much fun as I can, so I sure as heck don't want to grab the handle of misery and discomfort.
I love that. Humor is most of the time a good technique of just lightening up the mood a little bit, especially when things get very dim and dark. It's good to shine a little light in the environment.
I agree.
Okay, I got 2 more questions for you. Okay?
Sure.
First question is, teach me something about life that I do not know.
Let me throw this out. You probably know it, but I don't know if you do it. Let's put it that way. One of the things that team sports taught me, and I started playing basketball when I was 9 years old, and I played all the way up until I graduated from college when I was 21. And one of the things I learned from team sports was the importance of being part of something that's bigger than you. And you realized on a team that if you didn't do your job, not only were you letting yourself down, but you're letting your teammates down, your coaches down, your fans down, etc. And if you think about it, the biggest team game that we all play is this game of life. And I am on a clinical trial drug now for the tumors in my lungs that more than likely will not save my life. but it very well may save the life of somebody 5 years from now or 10 years from now, based on the blood work and all the data that the doctors get from that and the scans that I have and things like that. So being part of something bigger than yourself, for me, is realizing that what I'm going through now may not save my life, but it may save the life of another human being who I don't even know. I will never meet that person. But to me, that means my legacy is even more than when, somebody, okay, you died, no big deal. Well, I died doing something that was bigger than me. I died doing something that potentially is going to help somebody down the road. So I don't know if you knew that or if you've ever thought about it that way, but that's what I'd throw out at you for that question.
That was like the best possible answer you could give. Because like that thought crossed my mind, but to make a connection as you did right now, that's never happened. So thank you for that. Thank you. I'm going to be thinking about that for a little bit. My second and last question for you right now is, what advice would you have for someone in their 20s?
I'll tell you a story to answer that question. So I've always been a big fan of Western television and movies growing up. Loved Westerns. And my mom and dad used to let me stay up late and watch Bonanza and Gunsmoke and Wild Wild West. And I know you're sitting there thinking, what's this guy talking about? I've never heard of those shows. These are things that they aren't on anymore, but I love them. 1993, and you may have seen this movie, the movie Tombstone came out, and it starred Val Kilmer as a man by the name of John Doc Holliday, and Kurt Russell as a man by the name of Wyatt Earp. Now, Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp were two living, breathing human beings who walked on the face of the earth. They're not made-up characters just for the movie. Now, Doc was called Doc because he was a dentist by trade, but pretty much Doc Holliday was a gunslinger and a card shark. And Wyatt had been a lawman his entire life. And these two men from entirely opposite backgrounds form this very close friendship. And at the end of the movie, Doc is dying at a hospital in Glenwood Springs, Colorado, which is about 3 hours from my house. The real Doc Holliday died in that hospital, and he's buried in the Glenwood Springs Cemetery. And Wyatt, at this point in his life, is destitute. He has no money, he has no job, he has no prospects for a job. So every day he comes to play cards with Doc, and the two men pass the time that way. And in this scene, almost at the very end of the movie, the two men are talking about what they want out of life. And Doc says, I was in love with my cousin when I was young, but she joined a convent over the affair. But she's all that I ever wanted. And then he looks at Wyatt and he says, what about you, Wyatt? What do you want? And Wyatt says, I just want to lead a normal life. And Doc says, there's no normal. There's just life. And get on with living yours. Hafiz, you and I both know there are people out there that we know that are kind of sitting back and they're like, you know what? When this happens, I'll have a normal life. When that occurs, I'll have a successful life. When this happens, I'll have a significant life. I guess the way I'd answer that question is this. Don't wait. Don't wait for life to come to you. Get out there, find the reason you were put on the face of this earth, and live that reason. Because if you do, I'm going to promise you two things. And I know some 20-year-old sitting out there thinking, I could care less what you're going to promise me at the end of my life. But I am going to promise you these two things at the end of your life. Number one, you're going to be a whole lot happier. And number two, you're going to have a whole lot more peace in your heart.
I love that. Definitely a motivational speaker. You are definitely a motivational speaker. That goes without saying. But I love that. Yes, I think that story kind of just put things into perspective there, which again, wonderful. And yeah, I do know a lot of people around me who are just sitting back, just literally not doing anything. Sometimes I try to talk to them, but it doesn't do much. It is what it is. All I could do right now is just make sure that I do the best that I could, and then we'll just wait till life deals each of us our own cards, and we figure the rest out, So, yeah. All right. Any last things that you would like to say right before we wrap up?
No, I appreciate you having me on. I always say that it's nice people like you that allow me to come on and tell my story, and hopefully between our conversation here today that we're going to make a difference in somebody's life. And if we do, then for me, today's been a good day.
I love that. Thank you so much. I love that. Yo, I'm definitely gonna learn a thing or two from you. I know that for a fact. Thank you again. Thank you to everyone who is taking the time to listen or watch this. And we will wrap it up here. And yeah, I will talk to everyone later next week. All right, take care.